Okay, thank you for joining me today. The YouTube channel, of course, that goes around the world, and we're going to be coming close to 1 million subscribers, which is fantastic. There's only a handful of people in the world that ever get to that number, and we're grateful for all of our friends around the world that have helped us to work toward that goal. Okay, when money fails, there is a verse that Jesus talked about that was really unusual, and he used the word mammon in that phrase, and it's found in Luke. And he says this really strange verse, make friends of mammon. Make friends of mammon. Mammon is an Aramaic word. It's not a Greek word or a Hebrew word, but it's an Aramaic word. And a lot of the early fathers or historians talked about what mammon was. And so I wrote this down. Some interpreted it as simply saying money. Then some interpreted it as gain. Some interpreted it as riches. And some interpreted it as the love of money. And then I'm going to be honest with you. This is the strangest verse in the New Testament. He says, make friends of mammon. And he says this, so that when it fails, they will receive you into eternal or everlasting habitation. So I've checked every translation out. None of them I'm honest, none of them satisfied me. I checked every Greek word out. And this is the most complicated, in my opinion, and I know there's going to be people say, hey, here's the interpretation. This is what scholar so-and-so says. And so what I want to key up on, though, is the phrase that he said, make friends of mammon. Now, I don't know if you know this or not, but Jesus said it this way. If you give, men shall give to your bosom. What you make happen for others, God will help happen for you. And so a lot of time we have to understand that our source is God. And I want to be careful here because I do not want to be misunderstood, especially when people watch this. Our source is always God. Our source is never man. Amen. However, it's true. However, God does use people. For example, it's your boss that gives you the raise, but the Lord may have to speak to your boss to give you the raise. So I got somebody agreeing with me on that one, boy. Somebody's agreeing with me on that one. Okay, someone may have something that they say, we'd like to give this to someone. I mean, it could be an automobile, maybe a good used automobile, and you need one, and so you have to have the Lord speak to them. And they say, you know what, do you need an automobile? Yeah, how did you know that? Well, I've got one. And you're like, oh, I can't even believe this. I was praying for a month for this, right? So this is the thing that happens, that men give to your bosom. I also know this, that the Lord has helped us and we do not, and I need to share this up front, and we're getting a lot of wind here. I hope we'll be able to play this, because when the wind blows, the phone picks it up here. We've been blessed, and I have met some very wealthy people in my days. I have met billionaires. We have had people on this trip that owned entire mines. We have people that owned diamond, and you know what? I almost wouldn't even talk to them. Now, some ministers would be like, introduce me to these people. I never want people to think that they have anything I want. Because the only thing I need is God's anointing. I'm serious. And there have been times, I met a man, in fact, when Obama was president, he owned the rails in Europe. He owned the German rail company that made the European rails. He was such a billionaire that it was crazy. And he had just come to know the Lord. And you know what? I only talked to him one time. I didn't get his address. I didn't get his number. I don't do that. I'll be honest with you. I'm from the mountains, and I feel more comfortable with hillbillies. My wife will tell you, you put me with a bunch of country people, a bunch of, some guy got tobacco. What's going on, preacher? That's kind of the people I grew up around. So, but I do know this, that the Lord has allowed some people in the past that we have met, and some of them were not even Christians, and the Lord told them to help Perry Stone. And we to this day say it was the most amazing thing, but the Lord did it. You tracking with me? Amen. Not one thing we did. How many, if you're partners of our ministry, I never send out letters asking for donations. Have I ever sent one out? No. If you're a partner, I never send a letter out in a year. Never. Can you help us? Here's what we're doing. I'll tell you in the magazine, I'll say, hey, if you want to help, you can help. We don't do that. I've never operated that way. Now, I'm telling you that for a reason, because when you put your trust in God, you have to have money. You have to have mammon. You have to have income. And so God uses people to give you the thing, the land, the property, the necessity of what you need. But there comes a time when the Bible warns to be careful trusting in uncertain riches, because there'll come a time when it'll fail. There'll come a time when what is there in the system begins to fail. The reason I'm sharing this with you, and I got up this morning thinking about this story, and I don't know that we'll be able to have the time to do this today. You won't see this skeleton here, but I want to tell you the story. At the end of the corridor here, which is this long, narrow street here that the Romans walked on and the chariots were on, if you go to the end of it, and I don't want you to do this because you're not going to see anything, that's my point, but there is a column that fell over at the end of this road. So there was an earthquake, they may have told you this, that shook this place. And when I first came here and they first excavated, all of the columns were laying over this way, one direction. So you see them standing now, those had to be put up. But when we first came here, they were all laying over in one direction. When they excavated this, there was a small temple at the end of this road. And so they're digging and digging, and there's a skeleton under there. When they get to the skeleton, his fist is clenched. And and they're looking, and here's what he did. In his hand were, I don't remember if it was 9 or 12, but there were gold coins. So they're saying, okay, this must have been, was this a man that was running from his home with coins? He was not. The temple is where the people in the town were giving offerings to the idols. Someone before the earthquake had walked in there and had put all this money on the altar. And as the ground started shaking, we don't know if he was the priest, if he was just working there. Maybe he was the guy that left the offering. So he runs back into the holy, they would call it, because the pagans had it too, a holy place where, the idol was. And he grabbed the money and he's going out, and the column nailed him. So the column falls without him knowing, and he's laying under it, and he laid there since maybe the 9th century. And so 1,000 years later, they find this guy with the money in his hand. And so I really got up this morning, and I was just thinking about, we're going to Beth Shan, and the thought came to me about when money fails. And I want to just make a statement, and this, I think the older we get, and we are a mature group. I don't even like to use the term older. Tony Scott told me, he said, never say you're getting older, say I am a mature level. Amen. I'm a mature age. I'm mature. I am wise. How old are you? I'm a wise person. How old are you? I'm a mature person. But he said, you never say old. He said, because you're only as old as you feel, and really you're not as old as you feel. I know people that's 40 that feel old. Hello, somebody. So you're not old at 40. But here's what I want to tell you real quick, and that is this, that the older you get, you start realizing that you really don't take anything with you. And I know a lady, and I won't say who she was, but we met her in the Holy Land. She was the funniest woman I've ever met in my life. She was up there in years. She happened to be a millionaire, and she just loved me and Pam. She was very eccentric. She's in her 80s, and she loved me and Pam. And we were at the Valley of the Shadows, which is here in Israel. And this is, this is one of those things you don't talk about, but the family always laughs about. We laughed about it on the bus the other day. So I had a little bit of a fever. I wasn't sick, and I told him, I said, you all go on down there and tour. I'm going to see her. She said, what's wrong with you, Purry? I said, I got a fever. She said, I'll fix that. So I'm sitting there with my eyes closed, right? So she dips, I'm thinking she's got this hanky or something, and she plops this on my head, soaking wet, right? And she said, just hold on to that. So I did this, and they're getting on the bus. I've got my eyes closed, and they start laughing, and they're cracking up, and they're hee-hawing. And honey, I don't know what it was. What was it? Sanitary. A female sanitary napkin. I did not know. My wife said, you know what you got on your head? And the whole bus is going hee-hawing around. All right. Now, so you can see she's a little eccentric, anybody that would do that. So she would come to my meetings, she wore a wig, and I'd say, good to have so-and-so here. And she had a cane, she'd take the wig off, and she'd spin that thing around right in the front row. So she was really a hoot. I mean, if she was here, you'd laugh the whole time if she was here. We think she passed away. She had a lot of money, and she was going to leave her money with people that were in their 70s that were not even saved, which is fine. None of my business. But I've often thought, what if she'd have left it to an orphanage or 2 or 3 orphanages? What would have happened then is, and she's passed away, her reward is still being collected in heaven even while she's gone. Wow. Kids are getting saved. You see, because your reward keeps going up. If you invest in something here and you leave something here that is in ministry connected and it keeps going on even after you're gone, you're still getting residual rewards. Does that make sense to everybody? Yes. And so I thought it was kind of sad that way. But I want to talk to you about something about, and I don't know, I'm going to tell you one quick story because it looks like we got maybe some rain clouds coming. I don't want to get caught in the rain. But I want to tell you this real quick. As we talk about money failing, in the times that we live in, people talk about the crypto and the crypto's failing and this and fiat and all that. So people get confused about the money issue. But the Lord's been dealing with me about trying to help people to understand that there are things that you have in your attic, in your house by your parents, your grandparents, that you've inherited, that you have no idea that's worth something. And I'm going to give you one story. I collect ball cards. And I'm going to tell the story on YouTube because there's a lot of ball collectors that follow our ministry. Many years ago, 17 years ago, I bought a box of cards for $40. And there was an Aaron Rodgers 1-of-1 autograph rookie in that box. Only one in the world made. And I had it graded at Beckett at 9. Anybody collect cards? Anybody? Okay, a couple of you? Okay, they'll understand this. And so I had it for 16 years. And I said to Pam, we had to have some house repairs. I said, we don't have the extra money just to go to house repairs. So let me see if I can sell the card. And I called an auction company. The guy said, have your husband call me now. Here's my number. We didn't know the card existed. Oh. So I called him. He said, is it great? I said, it's great. He said, insure it, get it to me. I'm going to put it up at the next auction. I said, what's it going to go for? He said, I don't know. But he said, there's 2 Chinese men that love him, and if they get in a bidding war, you'll get a couple $1,000s out of it. I said, hey, it's pretty cool for a $40 box. It went to $10,000. Wow. Wait a minute. And then they said auction over, extended 1 hour. When the 1 hour hit, it went to 11,000, 14,000, 16,000, 18,000, 21,000, 22,000. Y'all ain't shouting with me. Where are my shouters? Where's my shouters? And that ball card that I bought for $40 in a box, I found, you find it by luck, but it was the Lord, $27,000. So a lady, now listen to this, a lady heard me tell that and she calls me and she says, I have some old ball cards in my attic that belong to my husband's brothers and I know nothing about them. I said, I will help you. I want nothing out of this. I want to help you. She's a widow lady. She said, I'll need my house paid off. I said, I'll help you. She sent pictures to me, and I have them on my phone. She had a 1921 Babe Ruth exhibit card. And I told the auction guy, he said, get them to me. So we went through them, we sent 5, they're being graded now. I said, what could the Babe Ruth card go for? He said, if it comes back a 4 or 5, which is pretty good, listen to this now, it could go for the low of $10,000 to as high as $65,000. How many of you think that'll help you pay your house off? So here's what I want to say to all of you watching, and we kind of got sidetracked here, but there's going to be things happen economically that sometimes you'll say, what should I do? How should we do this? Is this safe? Is that safe? But there might be something. Remember, God said to Moses, what's in your hand? He said to the widow woman, the prophet said, what's in your house, right? And the oil well broke out in her house. The oil well did, the olive oil. And so for somebody watching, and this is going to help somebody, may help somebody on my trip, first edition books with the original covers, documents, old stamps, old letters, some types of postcards. My sister had a postcard from December 7th, 1941 with the stamp and sold it for $500. Pearl Harbor happened that day. So be careful selling stuff just in a yard sale. Go through your stuff and know what you've got, because I've had some people recently that come up with some major money from an attic and they had no idea what they had. And you just have to research, trust somebody, but research it before you do it. So here's my point. Things will fail, but God never does. Amen. So if you put your trust in the Lord, He knows how to take care of you. So It's getting dark. It's getting dark. I feel like I'm at the temple in Jesus' day. You know, it's getting dark. Something's going on. Thank you for joining me. Give us a thumbs up. Keep watching. And I hope this was a blessing to maybe somebody watching that says, hey, honey, let's go look in the attic and go through some stuff. You have no idea what you might have. All right. Somebody give the Lord a shout.